In this problem, we need to obtain the value of this given expression, provided 1 omega and omega square are the cube roots of unity. So let's begin. First, we'd like to state two properties. So if 1 omega and omega square are the cube roots of unity, then the sum of the roots, which will be 1 plus omega square, that value is equals to 0. And the product of the root, which is 1 times omega squared, giving us omega cube, that value will be equals to 1. We'll use this property to find out the value of this given expression. So let's begin. So here we have 1 minus omega plus omega squared. So that is multiplied to 1 minus omega squared. Now here we have omega raised to the power of 4. So let's try to find out the value of omega raised to the power of 4. So that simply equals to omega cubed times omega. Now omega cube, we know from property that this value is equals to 1. So omega raised to the power of 4 will give us the value omega. This means exactly the same thing. Now that means we have 1 plus omega. Next, coming to the third expression. So here we have 1 minus omega raised to the power of 4. Now omega raised to the power of 4 will be simply omega. Then we have omega raised to the power of 8. So let's find out its value as well. So omega raised to the power of 8, so that's equals to omega raised to the power of 4 whole squared. Just now we found out that the value of omega raised to the power of 4 is omega, so we have omega squared. So that means omega raised to the power of 8, this value is also equals to omega squared. So let's replace omega raised to the power of 8 with omega squared. And coming to this particular final expression, which is 1 minus omega raised to the power of 8. So we have 1 minus omega raised to the power of 8. So omega raised to the power would become omega squared. And we have omega raised to the power of 16. Let's find its value. So omega raised to the power of 16 is equals to omega raised to the power of 8 whole squared. So omega raised to the power of 8, so that value is equals to omega squared. So we have omega squared raised to the power of 2, which is omega 4. And we know that omega raised to the power of 4 is simply omega. So that means we have plus omega. Now this is simplified. Next step, what we'll do, we'll try to apply this particular property, sum of the roots is equals to 0. For that, we'll again have to rewrite the given expression. So we have 1 minus omega plus omega squared. We can rewrite it as 1 plus omega squared. And since we have negative omega, so we'll subtract 2 omega from it. The next one, we have 1 plus omega. So here we have negative omega squared. We'll write it as plus omega squared minus 2 omega squared. Multiply to, here we have 1 minus omega plus omega squared. So actually, these two expressions are repeating, so we will square it. Means exactly the same thing. And here we have 1 minus omega squared plus omega. So this is the same as this one. So we'll simply square it. Oh, fine. Now that means we have this particular expression goes to 0. So we have negative 2 omega whole squared multiplied to similarly, this will also go to 0. We have negative 2 omega squared whole raised to the power of 2. So negative 2 omega whole squared will become 4 omega squared multiplied to, we have negative 2 omega squared whole squared. So that becomes 4 times omega raised to the power of 4. 4 times 4, so that's equals to 16. We have 16 multiplied to omega raised to the power of 6. So here omega squared multiplied to omega raised to the power of 4. So this will be equals to, we have 16 times omega raised to the power of 6, which we can express as omega cube raised to the power of 2. Now we know that the value of omega cube that's equals to 1, so which leaves us with 16 times 1 squared, or equals to 16. So that means the value of this particular expression, so using the fact that 1 plus and omega square are cube roots of unity, then this value will be equals to 16.